I think that people don't think about relationships as currency. They think about like putting money in their pocket.
Welcome to Midland Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
In a world flooded with content, too many brilliant voices are getting lost in the scroll, unseen, unheard, and undervalued. That pain lit a fire in Brendan Kaminsky. After years driving ESPN's digital presence and guiding icons like Stephen A. Smith and Jalen Rose, he saw the future. Visibility isn't about who you know, but who knows you. Brendan launched bknown to turn powerful people into unforgettable brands. From viral Super Bowl moments to reshaping digital strategy for the biggest names in sports and media, he's showing how authenticity and connection win in today's digital age. If you're ready to be known and not just seen, this is your episode. I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Let's dive into today's show. So super excited to have Brendan Kaminsky, founder of bknown, with us today. Welcome to the show.
Larry, thank you so much for having me. Excited to chat.
Yeah, I'm excited for this conversation. I love sports and everything it represents in so many ways. And we're going to spend a lot of time on what you're doing today with bknown and all you're up to and founding it. But we want to give our listeners an idea of your entrepreneurial journey. So if you could share like your journey up into the point that you founded bknown, and then we'll spend lion's share of our time on what you're doing today.
Yeah, Larry. So for me, I always wanted to follow my passion. I was always wanted to wake up every day and be excited for the work that I was doing. I will say that it takes time and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. I enjoy what I'm doing, what we're doing at bknown, but it doesn't happen overnight, as you know. People invent themselves, people change. For myself, I was always interested in sports, entertainment, and really I got to start in social media content creation in college. I went to UNC Chapel Hill and I got exposure, different campus representative opportunities, CBS Sports, EA Sports, startups. And I just started to play around with it. Twitter was just starting, Instagram just starting. And I started to run some campaigns for companies. And I was kind of just like, this is fun. How do I do more of this? Eventually, I went to UNC, like I mentioned to you, when I was in college. Harrison Barnes was a big star on the basketball team. When I graduated, he got drafted. I somehow convinced him via Twitter is how we first developed a friendship. I somehow convinced him to let him help me with his social media efforts, which really allowed me to get good exposure at an early stage in my career and eventually found my way to ESPN. And through that, it really helped me navigate in a million different ways. But ESPN gave me a tremendous platform, was working with them on the social media side, both on the brand side, the talent side. I met all these great people, did the 10,000 hours, worked live events, got exposure to the best and brightest in the industry, and then eventually decided that I wanted to leave to do my own company and start my own thing. But for me, it was always about, because I had some other experience, Larry, where I worked at Bloomberg. I did some financial stuff. I did some non-sports throughout my time in college, after college, in high school a little bit. But I ultimately was like, I love sports. I love entertainment. In college, I had some experience putting on some concerts. And I was like, I just want to do more of it. And I think the money will come. And ultimately, I think that it kind of saddens me when I talk to people like, how do you like their job? They're like, I hate it. I hate my boss. I don't like what I'm doing. It happens all the time. And I get it.
Yeah, great.
For me, it was more about how do I find something I enjoy? How do I become really good at one thing, or at least pretend to people that I'm really good at one thing and build a career out of it, make it a lifestyle. So
you mentioned back in 2012 that you encouraged your fellow UNC alumni, Harrison Barnes, to lean into social media, and you wanted to be or were the person that helped them do that. What gave you the foresight to see that social media was going to be so impactful for athletes?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I will tell you, as we sit here in 2025, the summer of 2025, that I did not expect that LeBron James and Michael Jordan would both be very relevant media, significantly active media figures, right? LeBron has his podcast.
Yeah.
LeBron is doing a bunch of shows. He's got his production company. Michael Jordan recently got announced that he's going to be an NBC special contributor for the NBA season, which was like, oh my gosh, if Michael Jordan's going to do it, why are you not doing it if you want to remain relevant? So I don't know if I had the foresight that that was going to happen, but I knew that this was, for all intents and purposes, everyone's their own PR agent. And back then I said to him and I said to others, like, you can be your own publicist and you have tremendous opportunity and leverage to express yourself through no third party. For me personally, I was able to see that through Twitter, I was able to meet Harrison Barnes. I was able to meet John Henson, who went to UNC. I was able to connect them to companies. I was able to meet Snoop Dogg and throw a free Snoop Dogg concert for UNC through the work that I did at EA Sports. And if you're a professional athlete, if you're a public figure and you respond to one comment or you respond to one tweet, that can have tremendous impact. I remember there was a time where there was a TechCrunch reporter who replied to one of Harrison Barnes' tweets. You know, we just liked the tweet, or I think back then, I don't think it was favoriting the tweet.
Right.
And then it led to them writing an article on him and how he's very tech forward facing in the tech world. And so I just think that through my personal experience, I knew it was going to be such an important tool in the marketing world. And I was very interested in that, right? I loved using Twitter and I loved sports and I wanted to combine it both. And so when I graduated and he was, on the Warriors, I'm like, there's all these different platforms. And the traditional agent, I didn't think was focused on that. And I just decided to lean in. And I'm so happy to be, like I said, sitting here in 2025 and see all these athletes leaning into media in such a big way, right? I don't know. I followed two things I was passionate about.
Yeah. And that's the important thing. You follow your passion and it usually leads you in good places if you follow the passion and not the money like you talked about. So you talked a little bit about your time at ESPN. You spent 6 years there after college. How did that experience, shape who you are today?
Yeah, it shaped me tremendously. The relationships, the credibility, the reps were everything. I mean, ESPN is the center of the sports world. And so whether it was people that I was meeting around me, colleagues, bosses, younger folks, I learned so much. And there were so many people that I met who were smarter than me, who had different skill sets. I learned the production world. I didn't know how to create content really, like using, multimedia and working on video and creating edits and graphics and all these different things that go into creating social media. Learn how to create YouTube and Instagram and all these different platforms. And I think the biggest takeaway is the relationships. You hear that a lot, but a lot of people come in and out of ESPN, right? Certainly externally, whether it was an athlete coming in to get interviewed or the a celebrity and people, you getting exposure to different talent or different talent reps or agents based on what you do. But the employees, the people that go to ESPN, the next day they're working at Fox or the NFL or Twitter or LinkedIn or Instagram or NBC, whatever it might be. And then all of a sudden you have this giant network of people that were part of the ESPN fraternity that you end up working with down the line. And I can point to so many examples now of counterparts, partners, people who I touch day in and day out that used to work with me at ESPN, or you worked with someone who I worked with. So I think that's the biggest thing. And of course, just learning how the industry works. And when you have a platform like that, when you're working at an ESPN, everyone wants to work with you. Everyone will take your phone call or email. If you say you're working on ESPN, you say you're working on social media, there are barriers to entry to get to that position. And so the credibility was instant, right? Before that, I was just a kid out of college who convinced this NBA player to help him with his social media. I was doing a few other independent consulting gigs on the company side. But once you have that on your resume, it's everything. And so I knew that you're so marketable when you're there. And there's tons of people that I knew that were at that platform and then ended up working at another company like Fox Sports. And to this day, I'm still in contact. Last week, I was texting with some ESPN folks, and it just goes to show relationships are everything. And it's really important. No matter what you do, if you're working in sports and entertainment, you will overlap with ESPN.
Yeah. We had Art Ocal on the show. So
awesome.
He's a friend of the show and a friend of mine. And we talk a lot of hockey together. So it's definitely got that importance factor in the sports and entertainment world. So at what point did you decide that you were going to make this transition? And you talked about the why behind, creating and launching bknown, but how did that all come to be? Did you start doing that while at ESPN, or was that something that you just kind of, formulated and then left to create this, media empire that you're working on towards today?
So expanding on the why was, I felt that I had a lot of relationships. I felt that I had built up a solid reputation and that there were a lot of folks who I was talking to, that I was collaborating with, that if I had left ESPN, I felt I could continue working with them. And so the why was, I'm at ESPN, I was here for 6 years, and I know that there's nothing else internally that I felt that I wanted to accomplish. And I felt that there was actually no better time to do it than the time that I was doing it, which was the heart of COVID, which some people would say was crazy because it was a lot of unknowns. But I felt like digital was only exploding. There was less TV programming. If you remember, in the very heart of COVID, there was nothing on TV. It was all on, right, Zoom, and NBA 2K had a video game tournament and everyone was on Instagram Live. And so I was like, you know what? This, I feel like, is the perfect time to expand. And I know I can take some folks with me who I already worked with at ESPN. And yeah, there were other external conversations that gave me signals. It's one of those things, Larry, where it's like when someone says, have you met Larry Sprung? Have you? And then if 3 people ask, they're like, you know what? This is probably the universe telling me that I should do it.
Right.
There were people in my life who I really didn't even want to talk to anymore because they would be like, Brendan, why are you not starting your own thing? So it was there were all these signals, but I just had the sensation inside and I had enough opportunity, I felt like, outside of ESPN that I wanted to activate on. And so it just felt right.
Sounded like it manifested itself almost to come to fruition. But imagine a relationship where financial conversations don't feel stressful, but actually bring you joy. We've designed a guide to help you have positive, meaningful money conversations with your partner. This isn't just another budgeting tool. It's a roadmap for building trust and connection. So if you're ready to start a joyful money journey with your partner, go to Mytland.us/couplesjoy and download your free guide. Transform your financial future together, starting today. One of the things that's so interesting about your journey, you've been very intentional and forthright about building it slowly. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs kind of dive right in and they start moving and they start growing. And then, things become unwieldy because they don't know how to manage it all because they grew so quick. And there's benefits to that, but there's also, some detractors to that. And you've been very intentional about building it slowly. Why have you decided to go that route?
I think that's an important call out. To have the ability to build something, let's say on the side while you're doing your main thing, is important, right? I didn't just wake up one day and say, you know what, it's time to leave. Let me just tell my boss that I'm going to leave ESPN to start my own agency and I'll figure it out. I'd say that what I had the luxury of is, I think ESPN, Katie Daly, who I was working for, who's amazing, who runs the ESPN social media team and now the whole digital team, and who knows what's next. Anything is possible for her. But she almost allowed me to, I feel like, run an internal agency at ESPN, right? Because I was the one in between talent there and helping them activate and helping to leverage their social to help the ESPN brand, which was an amazing experience. But I feel like since I was able to build all these internal relationships, it showed me, oh, I can do this. I can work with like 10 different personalities. Oh, maybe some of these personalities I can help with in a bigger way outside of the scope of what I have at ESPN. And so I had signals, back to what we were talking about with signals. I had signals internally from someone being like, oh, maybe that you can help me with this foundation, or maybe you can help me with my basketball camp or football camp. And that wasn't really within the day-to-day responsibilities of me as an ESPN employee. And so I think building it slowly, but building it strategically, being like, all right, if I left, I have relationships. It's not like a completely new skill that I've never demonstrated before. It's doing what I've been continuing to do, but doing it in a bigger and more impactful way and opening up all of the tremendous assets and resources that I received from ESPN and applying it to others. And I think the biggest thing people underestimate about themselves is their network. And once they expose themselves on social media and beyond, not just social media, but nowadays when we talk about what jobs we have and projects we're working on, like social media is probably the best way to do that to a wider base. Once people expose themselves and open up, there are so many people that are willing to help you and to work with you. And if you have the confidence, anything's possible.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. You just hit on something where it may seem like a play on words, but you've said that it's not who you know, but who knows you. And this is in line with what you were just talking about. Can you explain what you mean by that? In terms of it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Yeah, so a lot of people these days say, I know this person, I know that person. And it's a very loose phrase. You might know someone from Instagram or LinkedIn. You might have met someone one time. They might have been a friend of a friend. You and I arguably knew each other kind of before this chat.
Right.
We were connected on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, but we don't really know each other, right? We're starting to get to know each other now and beyond as we build a friendship, relationship. But there's a big difference between that and someone who really knows you, what you stand for, can speak on you, can vouch for you, will speak on you in meetings that you're not in and rooms you're not in. Because, like I said, a lot of people use that term loosely. And it's kind of like when I say, if you meet someone, let's say you want to work in sports and all you ever want to do is work at ESPN, and you get lucky enough to meet a senior vice president who works at ESPN, who's on the marketing team, and you meet them and their name is Jane Doe. And, you're like, oh my God, I talked to Jane Doe. I'm really interested in marketing. Thank you so much for all the advice. And then you never talk to them again for another year or 2 years, right? And then you want to work there and you reach out. Do they really know you? Are you one conversation that they had for 15 minutes on a random Thursday 2 years ago? Or are you keeping in touch and telling Jane Doe, hey, I did this in my marketing class at Syracuse and I thought it was really interesting. Would love to hear your thoughts. Really like this NBA Finals campaign that you guys did. And it inspired me, right? Some of these things will make you stand out and will make Jane Doe be like, oh, Larry, I know Larry's work, or Larry is continuing to stay persistent, continuing to show me that he is very passionate about what he does. And there's a big difference. Knowing Jane Doe doesn't really matter if Jane Doe barely has any whereabouts on you, barely has any understanding of your experience and credibility. And
yeah, that goes to my saying is network equals net worth. You have to pay into that network and you have to take care of it. You have to water it. You have to sow those seeds. So well said. We're definitely aligned there. So what advice do you have for, let's say, young people who are listening to this, right? And are also saying, hey, you know what? I have a lot of people who I know, but do I really know them? How do they go out and build up this relational currency, successfully? Are there some key tips you can leave with them?
Relationships, I absolutely view as the most important currency. And I think people, to really explain what that means, is you can't buy relationships. Relationships that you have personally or professionally are homegrown or organic and are because of you as a person. And adding value to people personally and professionally and not expecting anything in return is something that I try to live my life doing. And I've found that it can really work wonders. You can skip so many levels of things just through being a good person, just by showing people value you can provide them, just by listening. For ESPN, for me, I didn't apply. I built a relationship. I had the Harrison Barnes professional thing going on. I had the ESPN contact. I kept pitching ideas, right? Back to the, you don't just get connected to someone and then disappear. Hey, have you thought about doing this? Hey, maybe we can collaborate on this. Harrison Barnes, UNC Duke. Maybe we should have him do something for the UNC Duke game. Or, hey, he's going to be in the dunk contest. Let's have him take over SportsCenter social media, right? So then people already know your work. People already know what you're about and how you're thinking about things. The people that I remember are the people that continue to follow up, that even if they check in and even if I don't get a chance to reply, I try to reply every time, but like, even if they're like, hey, I would love to catch up, or hey, here's something I'm working on. I think about that too. I have a few people who I've had in mind over the past couple of weeks. So I'm like, mentors of mine or people that I look up to that are like, oh, maybe I should just send them an email to say, hey, John Doe, Jane Doe, these are some things I've been doing over the past few months. Thought you should know about it. Thought it'd be good for you to hear. Wanted to get your perspective. Those little check-ins along the way can speak wonders. So
yeah, super helpful.
I think that people don't think about relationships as currency. They think about like putting money in their pocket.
Right.
But nothing can beat the friendships you make and the professional contacts that you build. Like that is worth more than anything in the world.
I want to take a shift for a second for something that you and bknown did. And you had a confetti guy video that you shot during the Super Bowl. And it was really like the most simplest video of a guy dumping confetti into the machine before it blasted on the field. Literally, that's it. No big production, no scripted content, just a raw, really unexpected moment. And that moment garnered over 80 million views. It might even be more by now. Why do you think that video just stopped so many people in mid-scroll? Because that's what we're all fighting for, right? Is somebody scrolling through their feed to stop, watch, and view that. What was the impact there?
I knew, Larry, that video was interesting. I didn't realize how interesting it was. So if you had asked me in the moment...
Isn't that always the case, though? You're like, you have the thing, you're like, hey, this is pretty interesting. And then all of a sudden it just blows up because you don't realize why.
That is absolutely true. I had my ESPN social media hat on when I was taking that video. I think that a lot of times the simple video that we just kind of don't even think much about is the one that takes off the most. If you had gone into that game as a producer and you were working for a company, you're like, all right, I'm going to go in thinking, all right, if Taylor Swift is there, I'm going to try to get a video of Taylor Swift. Or, you know, if there's an amazing celebration on the field, or if a player proposes after they win the Super Bowl, or you could probably think of all these different types of content. Sure. And you could send it to your boss at ESPN or Fox or CBS, but you wouldn't script out the confetti guy, right? And so it's an example of always being on your toes and having the instinct. And in that case, like I said, I think on that one, here's what I'd say. Back to signals. When you receive signals that something is interesting, listen to the audience. So in that case, where that video started is on my Instagram story. It doesn't matter if you have 100 followers, 100,000, 100 million. If right away you receive a lot of Instagram replies to that, right? It's like, okay, there's probably something here.
Right.
Now it's the Super Bowl, so everything is amplified, right? It's the biggest event in the world. But right when I posted that, like there were a bunch of laughing emojis. There was a bunch of people that were like, oh my God, this is so funny, right? So that gave me a signal that it was okay. And again, I want to be clear that I have 5,000 Instagram followers, which is a solid amount, but I don't have a big following, right? So it's not like, oh, well, for anyone listening here, oh, well, if you have a big following, it's easier for that to go viral. I don't have that many followers. So then after that, I'm like, well, TikTok is the most viral platform on the internet, hands down. Anyone who's on TikTok in 2025 who has a business or claims to be strong at marketing doesn't know what they're doing.
Or they're in wealth management.
There you go. Or they're in wealth management.
Because we can't be on TikTok.
There you go. See, you're in different businesses. So in your line of work, in the financial world, which I can't speak to at all. But anyways, Then I'm like, TikTok's the most viral platform. Let's put it on TikTok. And then I see TikTok. I'm in my bed. It was in the morning in New Orleans the next day. I put it on my TikTok, which again, 8,000 followers, not that many, right? For some people, that might sound like a lot, but it's not that big. 30 minutes later, I see it's 300,000 views. Another signal, right? So if I can do it for my account and I'm in this situation, of course it's a Super Bowl. I get it. But like that method can be applied to a lot of other people who might not realize that they can get virality. And so it was really fun. And I took a lot of, I don't know, pride in the fact that like, I didn't go there planning on like producing some video, right? I just filmed the guy.
Right.
The coolest part for me was like building a relationship with that kid who then DM'd me, who was shooting the confetti. He's like, this was so cool. Thanks so much. And then I talked to the company that he interned for. He's a student at the University of Oregon. He's like a sophomore. And I talked to the confetti company and like, we should talk about this more. And they're like the Nike for the confetti world. So it really emphasized and validated like, this is why I love using social media, mostly to connect with people and to like make that kid's day.
Yeah, amazing story. I want to take a little bit of a 180 from our conversation. I want to shift over to mental health, which is a cause I am extremely passionate about. I have sat on the national board for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, lost my brother-in-law in 2004. And something I am super passionate about, raising awareness and lowering stigma. And I know it's something you're passionate about as well. And you've shared your own struggles publicly with anxiety. You know, what compelled you to, step out of the comfort zone and share your story with regard to your mental health?
Thank you for the question. And I'd say that there's nothing more important to me in my life than mental health, anxiety. I mean, look, the older I've gotten, back to the comfort zone, the older I've gotten, I'm not really shying away from like, there's no topic for me that I'm like, I don't really want to talk about. If someone asks me, the anxiety stuff maybe 10 years ago, or maybe I wouldn't be as open. I think that the older you get and the more you're confident in who you are, both personally and professionally, the more you're willing to speak openly about things.
Sure.
But for me, it's not about comfort zone. It's about if someone asks me a question about it, I'll answer. And as someone who constantly on a day-to-day basis, anxiety goes in and out. And as I've started to hear other people publicly speak about this, and as I meet other people who have initiatives to it, and as I hear, like you said, I'm very sorry to hear about your brother-in-law, there's nothing more important to it. What I've known is with physical health, it's a lot easier to treat almost, right? Physical health, you can point and say, oh, I broke my kneecap. I know how to fix it. Whereas with mental health, if you're anxious, there's not like, oh, just get surgery, take these pills, right? And so I'm constantly on the hunt and constantly working on myself. And I think there's some days that are better than others, but I think it's important. I think it's important for those to speak about it and not be shy of it. And speaking to others, other friends of mine, other folks like you who speak about it, it only helps both yourself and the people around you. And I think nobody should shy around. I don't think it should be out of the comfort zone for anyone to talk about their mental health and to talk about things going on in their life, because life is hard. Work is hard, whether you're working a 9 to 5, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you work at a big company, a small company. Older you get, the more you realize everyone's dealing with something. And the more you can talk about it and relate to others, the better it will be for yourself. And so I take pride in speaking about it. And again, I'm constantly on the hunt to make sure I'm setting myself up for success, because it's important for the people around me, for the business that I'm running, for my colleagues, for my peers, for personal friends, for my family, to be 100%.
Well, I thank you for sharing the story, and you'll appreciate this. I was just at the AFSP Lifesavers Gala, which is usually in May. We were there in May 2025, and Jay Glazer was there accepting an award. And he was telling a story. One of his good friends is Michael Strahan. And, he suffers from anxiety, depression, along those lines, and for a very long time kept it in also. And he told the story about how he finally came out and told Michael Strahan what he was going through. And Michael Strahan's response was, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You've robbed me X amount of years of being your friend by not knowing." And that comment left with me, that you and me sharing our stories and getting them out there may help the next person feel more comfortable about having that conversation a lot earlier.
This is normal, right? The way that I tell it to myself is, this is normal. I am not the only person in the world who is dealing with this, right? When I talk to Larry, when you talk to Jay or Michael Strahan, or you talk to your mom or dad, like, you realize this is normal. This is good. This means your brain is moving. You're thinking about things. Like, the more that others like yourself talk about it, the more it's helpful. And I think that there's nothing more important in the world than mental health. And that's a great story. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for bringing it up.
My pleasure. And thank you for sharing your story. So we got to end on a joyful note, because we are the Midland Money Mindset, and we're all about joy. And we've talked the majority of the time about joyful stuff. And I find a lot of joy in talking about mental health, because I know that the impact's going to be to help others. So we ask each of our guests the same final question, and our listeners are always waiting to hear the answer, because this varies so widely. And that is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
I can point to a couple things I did. Do I have to answer just one thing? Is it just like...
No, I'll give you agent. You can take more than one.
A couple things. Number one, my mom is coming to visit me soon, and she loves doing yoga, and I don't do yoga. I probably should, Larry. Back to our mental health conversation. It would probably help.
I just started recently in the last couple months, and
signal. Yeah.
We took my wife to puppy yoga for the first time, which was a lot of fun.
What is that?
Basically, while you're doing yoga, they have a bunch of puppies running around, and who doesn't like puppies? And then after the yoga session, you get some time just to spend and hang out with the puppies.
That's good. My mom, she's got a couple dogs she loves. But okay, my mom's coming into town. She does yoga every day. She always asks when she comes visits me, where do I go to do hot yoga? I'm like, I don't know. I introduced her to a friend that does yoga all the time, and they're both excited. My mom will have a schedule instead of having to rely on me, who is not the right person to look at for yoga advice in Miami. So I'm happy that they are connected, that they are going to do yoga together, that hopefully it takes her to somewhere. Because when she visits, it's important for her for mental health as well. Sure. So that's number one. And number two is probably just simple things. I just got home. I've been traveling for the past 2 weeks on and off. I got home. This is a very simple answer. I got a lot of laundry. I did my laundry. I did a couple loads. I made lunch today. I'm at home. I'm sitting at my desk. I'm feeling rested. I'm feeling good. And I'm happy to be situated. So that as well brought me joy.
Sounds amazing. I don't know if you'll do it, but I would highly encourage you to go out and do the yoga. I will say it takes a few times to get used to. I am not flexible in the least, but I'm continuing to work at it, and I'm starting to find joy out of it. So
thank you.
Maybe give it a whirl. But Brendan, it's been a pleasure having you on, and we're going to have all of your information in the show notes. But if people want to learn more about you, learn more about bknown, learn more about or connect with you, what's the easiest and the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, please. If anyone happens to care about me and wants to chat more, I would love to chat about anything personally or professionally. I'd say that LinkedIn, Brendan Kaminsky, my full name, B Kaminsky on Instagram, my agency, bknown Agency, bknown, bknown Agency, all one word on Instagram, my email address, which is just Brendan@bknown Agency. So I just gave a lot of information, but I'm very easy to find. I'm very accessible. And that's one of the things I say to everyone nowadays. Like, everyone is so accessible in the world through social media. If you want to find someone, I guarantee you can make it happen, or you can find someone around that person. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm available however you'd like to contact me.
Great parting words. I appreciate that greatly, Brendan, and I appreciate the time taking out and spending with us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Brendan, thank you for opening up and pulling back the curtain on what it truly means to be seen, not just followed. From building empires behind the scenes to confronting anxiety with courage, your story is a masterclass in turning purpose into impact. These are the conversations that stay with us and shape the way we show up in the world. Brendan Kaminsky and Be Known can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Midland Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, and remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?
The opinions voiced in the Midland Money Mindset Show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Guests on the Midland Money Mindset Show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.